Hey guys, welcome back to Coffee with Megan, where I chat to people in the fashion industry who are using their platform for good. Today I'm going to talk to Britt Bergmeister. She is the founder of On Duty Citizen, and she's worked in the fashion industry as a model for over 7 years now. She's going to tell you where her passion came from to start On Duty Citizen, the challenges she has faced, and the resources she uses to find the products she talks about. I hope you enjoy. Hey Britt!
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you? Where are you in the world right now?
Good. So I'm back home in Toronto. This is where I'm from originally. My husband moved here last year for work. So I've been splitting my time between New York and Toronto. And yeah, I was in LA for a month before this all happened. And once I heard the borders were going to start closing, I just came straight from LA with one suitcase on me. So I'm lucky to have, this as a home base for now. It feels a little bit safer, but I really do miss New York. Feels like my, second home. So
I feel you. I mean, I literally left with one suitcase too. It was
yeah,
a crazy
yeah.
experience, but
Which is funny because it also shows like how much we really don't need. I mean, I've been fine with this one suitcase. I was kind of panicked at first, but I've been wearing like the same two outfits for the past 5-6 weeks. So
I really know exactly what you're talking about. It's literally shown me how little I need.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've been living in New York and working in the fashion industry as a model for how long now?
This would have been my 8th year, which is crazy. I was in school and university for 1 year. The opportunity to model came up, so I just decided to put school on hold and move to New York and, pursue modeling full time. And it's been amazing. It's like the city that never sleeps, and it's given me all these opportunities to travel the world and start my own company and stuff. So yeah, it's been 8 years of bliss in New York.
And as you said, you started your own company. You're the co-founder of On Duty Citizen. And
Yep. Yeah.
people who may not know anything about it, explain exactly what
Mhm.
it is and what your thought process and how long you've been doing it for.
Yeah, so I started it with my mom in, I think it was January 2017. And originally it was just meant to be a company to promote kind of how to live like an off-duty model, how to manage your finances and what to wear when you're off duty and simple makeup routines. But around that time, my mom and I started learning more and more about what this sustainable word meant. And it was popping up more and more. And when we realized the negative impact fashion has on the environment, instead of just creating another side company, we wanted to have a company that would positively impact the fashion industry and our followers and communities. So we started On Duty Citizen as a way to promote sustainable and ethical fashion. We kind of have a list of shoppable, all our favorite sustainable companies. But it has grown to include more of just facilitating discussion on sustainable living and social justice systems and just everything that environmentalism touches and how it's all intertwined with fashion. And yeah, it's like our little side hobby that we have. And we learn a lot too from it. So it's a great tool for me to learn more about the environment as well.
Yeah, I think, and it's amazing resource to go to. You have a news
Thank
section, you have a section on products, you have that section with the models. So is that where it started? It started
Yeah,
as you were saying, more for models and
kind of.
uh,
Exactly. So even with our name, we changed our name recently. It was Off Duty Model, On Duty Citizen. And it wasn't even really for models. It was more just for how other people can live like an off duty model. And wear the timeless pieces that we wear that are inherently sustainable because they never really go out of style and whatnot. But I think a lot of people thought, oh, I have to be a model to support this brand. So we thought, okay, let's get rid of the off-duty model part so that you can be an off-duty whoever and also always an on-duty citizen. So now we kind of expanded our niche in that sense, which I think works in our favor to just be more inclusive.
yeah, no, it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you and your mum started this together. How did that come about? Why did you guys want to work
Yeah.
together on this?
So we're good partners together, and she's always she's like one of those moms who's just done everything and anything she wants. she's very passionate and driven. So she came up with this idea to kind of do an off-duty model kind of lifestyle brand. And around that time, I guess 4 years ago, we started learning more and more about sustainability. So we thought, let's kind of intertwine those two together. And so she has a background in business and fashion. And so she manages kind of like all the trademarking and the lawyer fees and kind of the big concept ideas with the brand. And then I guess I'm more of the creative. So I'll do a lot of the pictures and interviews and blog articles. And then she also has a background, as I mentioned, in journalism. So it's really helpful to have her edit all those articles for me.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we just work well together.
Yeah, it's good to have those two sides. I definitely know that starting my own company now with my boyfriend. So
yeah, exactly.
Two sides. And where did your passion for this come from? Like, was it being in the fashion industry, or have you always been interested in advocating for sustainability, or how did this come about?
It's definitely more of a newfound passion. We grew up in Canada, which has like naturally everyone composts. That's just the way it is. So there was definitely aspects of sustainability. But I remember a long time ago, actually, when we were living in Japan, my mom, because there's no garbage anywhere in Japan. There's like the streets are so clean. And I remember one day she said, "Where does all the garbage go?" And like, that was such a profound question for me, because I was like, oh, I don't know, where does it all go? And it was just a thought, like, recite anything. We just were very curious. And then we kind of began to panic about it. That was a long time ago, but ever since, it's always been on my mind. And so when I joined this model activist group, that was the foundation of that group, is talking about women's rights and sustainability and environmentalism and how fashion negatively impacts the environment. So rather than just being defeated and not wanting to be part of the problem, I thought, okay, here's a way we can be part of the solution. And once you start learning more and more about little things about sustainability, it becomes addicting. You just want to keep changing for the better. So that's kind of where the passion came from and how it has evolved to where it is today.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I'm learning as I go, and every conversation I have with different people in this Coffee with Megan talks is, I'm like, wait, I need to look at this now. I need to look at my beauty now.
Yeah.
I need to change different parts of my lifestyle. And like you said, it becomes addicting, and it becomes like, why? It's shocking. I find that we haven't thought about all these. Well, like some people, I wasn't aware of these parts of my life.
No, me neither.
And I really love the conversation you're starting to have, and making people more aware. And you're really amazing at recommending products for people, whether it's fashion, beauty. I mean, you have different recommendations. What's important to you when you look at a brand to know if you want to recommend them?
I think first and foremost, even with having these conversations, it's all about being open and transparent and not so negative on yourself. So there's all these ways in which we can be better and companies can be better, but as long as you're honest and transparent about your journey. And so if I look on a brand's website, I'm looking for their story or how transparent they are. I'd much rather support a company that says, here's what we're doing and here's how we can be better. Here's what we plan to do in the next 5 to 10 years to be better. We're growing, we're trying, versus like a company that would say, we're so sustainable, we use eco-friendly this, and all these kind of like generalized words. In terms of specifics, I'll look for sustainable practices they do, like the materials they use, maybe the certifications they have, and then ethically how they treat their workers, what their factory workforce habits are like, and if they recycle, and if they have a plan of end of life for their garments. I think that's always great, but closing the loop of waste. So those are kind of things, but first and foremost, just transparency, I think, is key.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And where do you go to find a lot of the products you speak about? Is there resources you use, or is it on a lot of Instagram?
Yeah, definitely a lot on Instagram. I'll reach out to companies. I think communication is key. So if I hear or am curious about a company, if they're sustainable or not, maybe I'll reach out to interview them. I have like an interview section on the website, and it kind of goes a bit more in depth of their practices. And if they're open to do that with me, I take that as a sign that they're a good, trustworthy company. And then to learn more, I go for all the interviews I do, like the one I did for you for Citizen of the Month. A lot of people will recommend, that's one of the questions I have, is like some of their favorite sustainable or ethical brands.
Yeah.
And that's a great learning tool for me. That's where I've gotten like probably 90% of the companies we represent on the site.
And what's an everyday item that's become essential in your life, whether it's beauty or anything that really helps to make your life more sustainable?
I mean, what I always have on me prior to COVID, but is probably just all my reusables, like your Hunu cup. Like I love having something with me always to eat on the go or drink on the go. So reusable coffee mug, water bottle, cutlery. Usually if I'm traveling abroad, I'll bring like a Tupperware of oats for breakfast the next morning, and then I'll clean it and then use it for like my meal on the way home on the flight. So sometimes I'll have more Tupperware in my suitcase than clothes, but I just like being prepared in that way, and then I don't have to use a lot of the plastic that is inevitable at the airport. You know what I mean?
No, that's
so.
And
yeah.
what are some brands right now that you're really loving? You feel like they're just doing it right in all the right ways?
There's a lot. I love the companies who are doing are closing the loop on their waste, or just being innovative about that. Or rental clothes systems are great. So I just made a list here. For Days is awesome. They have like a rental kind of give back program. So you just rent clothes however long you want to, and then send it back, and then they remake new fabrics out of the old ones. Prana Yoga is great. I've always loved them for yoga clothes. Vitamin A Swim is really cool for swimwear, and they're sexy and sustainable, and it's like their style comes first, and then it's like, oh, and they're sustainable. Great. Amour Vert is really nice. Ecoalf, Parley is great. They team up with Adidas to do all the like runners shoes and stuff. And then Veja is also great. So yeah, we can like maybe put some of those in the show notes, but there's so many awesome ones.
I mean, people can go check out on your website as well and see.
Yeah.
You haven't just been involved in talking about other people's brands, you've made some products of your own. And what have you found has been challenges when you're looking into making products and maybe finding the materials? And what advice could you give to people who have this idea to try and make something themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you experienced this a bit. So creating your own product obviously is the best revenue stream in terms of like resale value. We tried in the beginning to do our own t-shirts from scratch. So I got the sample yardage. I found a factory in New York, which was sustainable, which was great, which was really hard to get into. Like getting into all these, if you have such low minimum orders, many people like don't even want to talk to you. So you have to like practice your lingo and make sure you sound like you know what you're talking about to get in even. So I got all this sample yardage for these white t-shirts, made up a sample. The fit was great, but I just realized, oh my gosh, in t-shirt form, I don't like this fabric. So rather than like ordering a bunch of new yardage and whatnot, I realized I don't want to be part of the production problem. Like there's already so many brands that are trustworthy and sustainable making the perfect white t-shirt. So why don't I just pair up with one, buy some wholesale, and then put my own logo on them? So that's kind of what we ended up doing, because a lot of our own products were quite simple and just like your staples that you would wear every day. They weren't so innovative. So it was definitely difficult to do. It cost a lot more. So we just decided to buy wholesale and then do it that way. And then down the line, I think if we can come up with something a bit more innovative and unique, that's when I would be more inclined to make it my own way again. But like for your cup, for instance, like no one else is doing that really. So it was great to do it from the start and do it your own way and do it perfectly how you want it. And I think that's so great and so admirable. But in terms of like a white t-shirt or sweatshirt or whatever, it was best to just team up with other sustainable brands.
No, that's awesome. You took that initiative and you learned that along the
Yeah,
way, because it's scary. I sometimes find it
it
scary
is.
when you're a model and then you're approaching this industry that you didn't know anything about, but you're learning along the way.
Yeah,
I think that's amazing.
exactly. Yeah, it was a big learning curve, but now I know for when we do want to produce, like kind of the steps to take. So we'll see. Maybe that's another project down the line for us.
And you also, I thought it was really amazing. You partnered with Tommy Hilfiger. You were in their campaign for their
Oh,
sustainable
yeah.
line. How
Yeah.
did that come about? Was that coming from you because you've used your voice in this area?
I think so. I'm with Next Models, and they've been completely supportive of like Britt, the model activist. So they even went so far as to like make a whole pitch deck of things I've done in the sustainable world. So I think they really helped in that sense push for that campaign. But what was so special about it was, so they told me, okay, we'll do an interview the day before the shoot. And just asking you a few questions about sustainability. So I thought, okay. And it was like a 2 hour long interview. And
Amazing.
I was just so honored that like such a big company, I mean, it's hard not to feel like intimidated or feel like you have imposter syndrome, like why are they choosing me? But they really did care what I had to say and my thoughts about the product we are shooting and like the future of sustainability. And then they intertwined a lot of those voice clips with the campaign. So that was just so special. And I think just having Next support was great. Yeah, that was a really cool campaign. I wish I could, all my jobs could be like that.
Yeah.
It's
And
really
that's what I was
special.
going to say, because it's a struggle that we're in an industry that is, I mean, one of the biggest, it's the second biggest polluter to what's
Yeah.
happening in the world and climate change. And was this quite a special moment to see that you can mix these worlds together? And how do you find that as like an internal thing with being a model and fighting for this?
Yeah. I think, I think at first it was a bit defeating, but then also at the same time, like we need to work with the companies who aren't doing it perfectly, and inspire them to change. A lot of these companies that aren't doing it as sustainably, they have a lot of the money and the resources to be better. So if we can inspire that change through our demand, or if I show up to set with my reusable cup enough, maybe they'll be like, oh, a lot of the models are using these reusable cups. Maybe we should consider investing in a dishwasher instead of all the single-use plastic, which has happened. So I think it's just about working together, not shaming everyone. Obviously, it's nice, or it's good to hold some companies accountable, but like I would never shame a company that I was working with that didn't totally align with my values. I think we just need to work together to be better.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And as you say, the
Yeah.
fashion industry can really influence people. That is what we're
Yeah.
doing in many ways. So it's amazing if we can influence people on set and people from big companies to make those changes. Hopefully,
Yeah.
that change.
Yeah.
And are you seeing a positive change within the fashion industry? Do you feel?
I think so. I mean, even with the types of jobs that are coming up for me, there's way more sustainable gigs than there used to be. People want to hear about your story and your background, even beyond sustainability.
Yeah.
Companies care about Megan, the person, and as a whole in the package versus just Megan, the face, you know? So I think customers as well, they're awakened about how negative the fashion industry has been on climate change. And so through their purchasing power, they are demanding companies that are more transparent and more ethical. And especially with COVID, like people are supporting companies who are treating their workers well. And whether that is in relation to sustainability or just the ethics of it, like their workers are healthy and safe, those are the companies that are going to survive this, I think. And those are the ones where customers will be supporting them throughout and then after this pandemic. So I think both in and outside the fashion industry, I've totally noticed it's just part of everyday conversation now,
Yeah.
you know?
No.
And I think even with like my high school friends, we never used to talk about this. And now they're coming to me to talk about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were so interested in this, but it's just everyday conversation now, I think.
And what I think is amazing is it's also across all generations. It used to be this big gap,
Mm-hmm.
the new twin
Yeah.
maybe thinking about sustainability and talking about it, and maybe older
Yeah.
people weren't always, they're maybe stuck in their ways. But I feel like a lot of people
Yeah.
are doing the change right now.
Definitely. It's for the future, but it also affects us right now. I mean, it's evident with any industry, just how the climate can affect us all. So I think people realize that it's not a problem that's going to happen way down the line. It is affecting us now, and also disproportionately. So it's all about being inclusive and making sure we include everybody in this movement and make it accessible, I think.
Amazing. And fashion-wise, is there any, do you have any favorite vintage stores in New York or anywhere in Toronto that you like to shop at, or
Yeah.
find your clothes?
I don't know if you remember in New York, I think it's on like East 7th, Tokyo 7. Have you been there?
No, I've never been.
It's Tokio, I think, 7. That was a really cool store. Like I got this great Prada long suede jacket and like yeah, jackets are my I feel like you can wear anything plain underneath, but if you have a cool vintage jacket, it just makes it your own.
Exactly.
That's probably my favorite one that I can remember right now. It's a really cool store.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. And
Yeah.
what are favorite resources or websites you go to learn about sustainability? Do you have somewhere you like to read and find out what's going on in the world?
Yeah, definitely a few. I signed up for the New York Times climate, what it's called, climate series. So it's like their weekly email, but all relating to climate change. So that's really great. I wrote down a couple of others. Whitney Bach is a journalist from Fashionista, and she's just so like forward thinking, and like I feel like everything she writes about is like 10 steps ahead. Like everyone else is kind of talking about sustainability now, but she's just so forward thinking. I really love everything she says, and she's very inclusive and aware about how it kind of affects climate change affects us all differently. Fashion Revolution's great. Sustain the Mag is a really cool resource. The founders are so sweet. And then Rainforest Alliance is great. There's so many cool tools that all address different aspects of sustainability, but those are definitely my favorites.
No, they're amazing. Amazing suggestions. I'm going to check them out. And where can people find you? Is there, actually one last question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
What is something you've personally learned during quarantine times or being all locked down around the world?
I think the main thing is probably just that I don't need a lot of materialistic things to be happy. Like I'm healthy, I have a roof over my head, husband, like I'm so lucky in that sense. And just that like climate change, COVID has been affecting us all so disproportionately. So I think it's really opened my eyes, like just how we need to be way more inclusive. And I hope, in November when it comes time to vote, everyone gets out and votes, because that really policy change is what can just be more inclusive of everyone. So I think just being aware of how lucky and thankful I am to be in this position, and using my voice to include more people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and I completely agree and feel exactly the same. And definitely also about the stuff. I literally left with just a few t-shirts because same as your situation, and it's not needed. I'm like, how do I have so much stuff at home? It's so unnecessary.
I know. I don't even remember what's in New York. Like it's really sad. So we'll see. Like, we really don't need much.
And where can everyone find you, and what is your blog, and where people
so our Instagram is at On Duty Citizen, website's ondutycitizen.com, ODC for short. And then my personal one, where I also relay sustainable topics, is just at Britt Bergmeister. So that's how you can find me.
Thank you so much for chatting to us.
Of course. Oh, it was really great talking with you too. Thank you.
Bye.